Welcome to session 1 of Data Tracking Made Easy. In this course, we are going to talk about data collection, how to use data, and how to share data, specifically as it pertains to the world of special education. Before we talk about this in the weeks to come, I want to focus on the process of how we got here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that sequence of events that we live every day as special education teachers, so that when we get to this concept of data, we know why and how and with who we're going to be using this information. So we know that in any given day, students are asked to do a lot of different tasks. And those tasks can be across a variety of subjects, right? Whether it is a writing prompt or reading a passage in ELA, whether it's working on number fluency or problem solving in math class, whether it is combining those skills in science and social studies, or the simple act of walking through the hallway, having your lunch account up to snuff, playing within the confines of the rules at recess. Students are asked to do all sorts of different tasks. We can zoom in on a single subject. Even in a class like math, a student may be asked to do different tasks. Can you do this exit ticket? Can you work on this worksheet? Can you complete this assessment? Can you turn and work with a partner? And the expectation is they can accomplish these tasks individually, but also consistently. However, we know that in the world of special education, our role as an educator is to help support and identify skills that our students can work on that will better allow them access to those tasks inside the general education classroom. So we know that when we think about all of these different skills, we could come up with an entire list. So if we think back, I want you to add in some of your own thinking. If we think back to that math problem inside a math classroom, what are some of the skills that are inside that problem that students may need to know in order to be successful on that task? It could be such things as fluency. They need to know how to combine and deconstruct numbers in order to do that fluently and quickly. They may need to know the skill of problem solving. They may need to know, depending on that, different operational math. They may need to know how to be successful inside a classroom setting, so following directions. Social skills, working with other students. Each of these tasks that we ask students to do on a daily and consistent basis are actually a combination of all these different background skills that our job as a special educator is to support. Well, we know that in the SPED world, we do this through lots of different ways. One way we do this is by looking at learning progressions, right? We identify what the grade level standard is that our students are supposed to be working on, and if they aren't quite there, we look back and we see where is their last point of success. Oftentimes we call this a ladder. This type of progression placed in a vertical way. So we think of what is the last rung of success that my student can do independently. And we start there as a building block towards working towards the grade level standards. But we know this comes with a cost. It's a difficult skill to do as a teacher, and it makes it more difficult because our daily instruction revolves around these goals. So if we can accomplish this, if we can decide what are all the things that a student needs to do in class, what are the skills they need in order to get there, and what is a really good goal that we can write for their IEP to help them along in this journey, then all we have to do, I'm downplaying that, it's quite a bit, all we have to do is then develop individualized instruction that will help get them there, and then collect data to see if what we are doing is working. So that next idea of developing individualized instruction can be tough because it requires that you understand how to service that wonderful goal that you developed based on student skill need based on the tasks that they're being asked to do inside our classroom settings. So we have brought us to this point. In this class, we will be discussing this last piece, this data piece. And that data piece is so important to the success of this entire process, because we know that when we service students across a variety of settings, on a variety of skills, that's important to know if what we are doing is working. Because if it is not, we need to find a more nuanced approach to it. But part of that process is data collection, and that can be a difficult thing. So we will talk about that in this course. The other part that we will talk about in this course is data sharing. It's important to share with stakeholders what we are working on and why. And the third piece is the process of data collection. So we don't just use data, we collect data. And data collection in itself can be very difficult, especially when you're working with a variety of students and a variety of other stakeholders and instructors and support staff in order to collect that data. So we're going to talk about how this applies to not just academic goals, but also functional goals. If you're in the high school setting, we'll also dabble on some of those transition goals. But collecting data in each of these settings kind of looks a little bit different with how frequently and how we collect it in and of itself. So your goal for this week is just to introduce yourself and to share a little bit about your history, personal history, in this world of special education, but also in the world of collecting data. So I want you to answer some of the questions inside Google Classroom, such as what are some kinds of data that you collect in the education system on a pretty frequent basis, and how do you use that data now?